welcome to this midweek edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBW Podcast on those platforms. Make sure you give us a follow. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you find your podcast, on the BodySlam.net YouTube channel. And of course, support us and our friends over at SportsWire Radio. I know they would appreciate it as well. Joining me, as always, is the young buck, my partner in crime, Mr. Andy York. Andy, it feels like it's been forever since we've recorded a podcast.
I know, man. We talked about it before we hit record. It feels like it's been a month, and it's only been like a week. It's been a very busy week for both of us, and it has definitely felt like it for sure.
Yes. My son's birthday was this past weekend. We had approximately 60 people at our house. Andy was one of them.
I was one of them, yeah.
Andy was one of the last, not to throw any shade, but Andy was one of the last ones to arrive. Having said that, though, Andy made like person number 60 or somewhere around there. So Andy got to see all the craziness that was going on.
I rounded the number out. Plus, it's one of those. This is not podcast talk at all, but it is not. It's one of those when like it's a little kid's birthday party as like just an adult with no kid. It's always awkward to show up. So I'm like, I'll show up late after the gifts. I don't need to eat the cake. Let's just leave and let's just go.
Well, he appreciated you being there, so that's what's important. But anyway, beside the point, it was my son's birthday. We had family in town, and my house is finishing up being under construction, so it was the midst of cleaning all that up and getting it ready for yada yada. It's a crazy week in my world and in Andy's world as well. So we apologize for no episode. We also apologize for no PBWF. That is coming this week. Sorry about that, you all. For those of you who are waiting on week 11, that is coming. I apologize. That's my fault. But before we go any further, Andy and I want to give a big shout out to our boy, Mr. Rosario Grillo. I don't know if you guys are following him on social media or not, but one Mr. Cody Rhodes tagged him in a Twitter post talking about Grillo's new gig backstage at AEW. So I texted Grillo, congratulated him. Very, very cool. So shout out to the man for getting a gig and also for continuing his work in the ring. I texted him and I was like, man, you're not stopping this in-ring stuff, are you? Like this is not stopping that. He's like, no. This is just this is a job. I'm like, okay, that's good. So the shout out to him. That's really awesome. Shout out to him if he's listening. Congratulations, dude. Speaking of AEW, Andy, Grand Slam just ended not that long ago. And we have I can't really say new, World Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley defeating Bryan Danielson. I'm feeling very deflated about this. How are you feeling?
I honestly don't know. Like the match itself delivered all the way. Like I don't think we expected it not to deliver because it's Moxley and it's Danielson. They kicked each other's teeth in and beat the crap out of each other. I don't know. I fully expected Danielson to win. I think even when this tournament was announced and we kind of talked about it, like the Danielson was like the top guy on my list to win the whole thing. With Moxley being 2 and Jericho probably being 3rd. And so I don't hate it. I mean, it's one of those. I feel like Moxley, I don't want to say he needs the title. I think it's more intriguing when he has the title. And I think it makes everything feel bigger. However, if we are heading to Moxley MJF, Danielson MJF is a match that really intrigued me. However, with Moxley's past and everything that's going on, I'm very excited to see the promos that happen between these two guys because I think Moxley has always been good on the mic, even as Ambrose. When the Shield talked, they always let him talk because he's always been really good on the mic. His feud with Punk here recently, he absolutely lit Punk up on the mic, which is very difficult to do. And so I'm excited to see those two go back and forth. I don't know if I'm deflated as much as, okay, we've seen this before. He's the 3rd-time champion.
Yep.
Where are we going to go from here?
Yep.
Which, I mean, he might be a transitional champion. And if he is a transitional champion, putting that thing on MJF, I would rather Moxley be that transitional champ than Danielson. I think if Danielson's going to win it, he needs to hold it for a while. But with MJF coming back, I don't see any way that he doesn't win the title at some point in the near future.
Yeah, that's a really good point about being a transitional champion. I like Moxley better than Danielson, but at the same time, it's like, why did you even have a tournament? Like, you building intrigue. Okay, cool, but we're getting the same result. You may as well have just handed the title right back to Moxley in the first place. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I caution, you know how I talk about AEW's booking sometimes, but I caution Tony Khan in this booking direction. I don't think people are starting to turn on Moxley yet, but it's starting to get really repetitive, and it's starting to get annoying, in my opinion, just because you just have to be careful with this.
Right. I don't know. I don't think the crowd is turning on him because when he won, he got a huge pop. He got a huge pop. Right. It is getting kind of repetitive. It's not. This is a wild comparison, and I'm not even really comparing it, but it's the only thing that I can really think of that puts it somewhat into perspective. It's kind of like Cena with his run of like dropping the title, picking up the title, dropping the title, picking. It's not to that extent, and Moxley's not burying guys. Like Danielson's not buried, Jericho's not buried. Punk might be buried, but that was his own fault, so it wasn't Moxley's fault. Right. So I don't think it's like a bad thing yet, but I think if we continue to go down this path, it could be. Yep. But honestly, I think it's just to get MJF the title, and if it's just to get MJF the title, I get why you want to have a world champion. I think because if you watch Monday Night Raw, I feel like something is missing on Raw, and I think that thing is a world championship. So you want to keep that world title on TV, and you want to have a world champion. And I don't think they wanted to put the title just yet on MJF because they're telling this story, but I think it's happening very, very soon. And I think you would want it to be Moxley that gives the title to him rather than Danielson have a very short run that means kind of nothing in the long run.
Yep, that's true. Well, that's very true. I think you could have done this without making Moxley the champion if you wanted to say Moxley versus MJF for the title because MJF is the number one contender and Moxley wins the tournament. Okay, that's great. Let's just do that. And let's not crown a champion and then have him drop it. It just seems meaningless. Let's go to MJF for just a second because Tony Khan was on what podcast was he on? I just read this.
Was it Wrestling with?
Yes, the Brandon Walker podcast.
Yeah.
So I think that was today that podcast got released.
I think so.
And he's talking about MJF and his chip. Mm-hmm. And Andy, I did not realize that the chip is acting as a Money in the Bank type prop in which MJF can cash it in anywhere, anytime.
I didn't realize that either. I thought it was kind of like you win it and then you're like, all right, this date I'm facing you for the title. But it's it's anytime, anywhere.
That's why MJF was in the crowd tonight and he had the chip with him because apparently that's what it is. And that's what Tony said on the podcast. He said anytime that he wants to, any event he wants to cash it in, I'll sanction the match. And there we go.
So it may be, I don't know, because I haven't listened to the podcast yet. So whatever his
I
words
think I just read an excerpt and I'll try to look it up while you're talking here.
Because it may be one of those of like, he says, all right, at Revolution, I'm cashing this in to face you, blah, 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 whatever. Or at Grand Slam after your match or whatever. So I don't know if it's like a Money in the Bank thing, which if it is, I mean, yeah, they're copying WWE, but there's a reason why everybody loves the Money in the Bank, and it's because it works. So I don't see the harm in bringing it back, especially like someone like MJF, and obviously on the WWE side of things, like The Miz, always when they have the briefcase or something like that, it always adds more intrigue to it than anything else. So I really like that idea if that is the case, if that is what they're doing. But I don't feel like they're going to do like the cash in type. I feel like that it's like at whatever the next pay-per-view is, I'm cashing this in to face you for the title.
Yeah, I hope so. Here it is. Give me just a second here. I'm going to read what he says. Let's see. This is what he said about MJF He's going to be in attendance in New York. He's really looming over the championship picture since he returned and won the ladder match, which means he's going to have a shot at the world title anytime he wants. I will sanction that match. I think anytime, any sanctioned event, we could certainly make it happen. In this day and age, it's a world that is certainly with live television and pay-per-views, all these opportunities, excited to have a contender out there looming. Big championship match tonight on Dynamite. Certainly more interesting to have two of the world's best wrestlers and to have MJF looming in the background with the right to challenge for the title at any time.
See, to me, that sounds like he cashes in for an event or for a Dynamite, and then he sanctions it. So not necessarily like post-match, come down, cash in type thing. I think it's, to me, and I could be reading this, I could be misinterpreting what he's saying.
And I could be misinterpreting it too, but like when it kept showing MJF in the skybox with the chip. So like, to me, he doesn't have to walk around with that thing if he's just the number one contender.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to remind people, like,
right,
because let's be real honest, after everything that happened with him coming, like the way he came back, and then all the post-match, all the post-scrum stuff, I kind of forgot he won that ladder match until recently. Not because it was bad, but it was because there was so much that happened that took my attention away from that. So it may not be bad for him to walk around with it, and I don't think he's going to walk around forever with it. But I think it's one of the, to me it read as cash in at any event, so he could say, you know, if they have a Dynamite in Long Island, this Dynamite in Long Island, I'm cashing in my chance to face you for the title, and Tony's going to sanction it.
Maybe so. Maybe that's it. Maybe I misinterpreted it, but I find it very interesting that all that to say we haven't had this situation with any chip or any brass ring or whatever. Like, this is all new. Everything else, like you said, has been you win, then we set the date, you have the match. Now it's like, well, I get to choose. It didn't seem like those other guys got that luxury. You know what I mean?
Well, and plus with MJF, it could be just one of those, they could always add in, well, with the contract that he's signed to come back or whatever.
Yes.
He said if he won, he gets to do it whenever he wants to do it. So like there's a way that if you don't want this to be a continuous thing, you can get around it if you really want to. And I'm trying to remember, man, who won like the last couple, because I know Brian Cage won the first one.
When they did the brass ring Revolution, that was Scorpio Sky.
Yeah. Wardlow won it last year.
Wardlow.
Because MJF cost him after.
Right. Trying to think.
There's only been 3, hadn't there? Or 4 counting MJF, right?
I think, because some others were like a battle royal.
Yeah, because you had the
Jungle Boy. Battle royal at one point.
Yeah.
And the one was for the women.
Because I think the first like brass ladder match they did was during the pandemic, where there was no fans.
Right. It was during it was Revolution. It was either right before or right after.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right, let's move on to a couple more things from Grand Slam. The second, well, I would say the biggest thing, discounting the world title, the biggest thing, Paige debuts in AEW. Now it's either Saraya or Saraya. The announcer said Saraya.
I think it's Saraya.
I thought it was always Saraya, but I could, what do I know? Anyway, Paige, FKA Paige, debuts in AEW. What a pop, man. Oh my gosh.
What a pop and what a get. I mean, we talk all the time about the AEW women's division feels like it's missing something. And I feel like Paige or Saraya or whatever, however you pronounce her name. I trust Excalibur more than I trust myself. So I'm going to go with what he says. I feel like her being added to the mix, AEW's women division automatically feels like a big deal, like a bigger deal now, because she is in it and she's involved in it. I don't know. I didn't really get to hear on commentary if they said like she's back, like wrestling capacity, whatever. If she isn't, I still think it's a big get, because she is the type of person that she's going to fight for her TV time. And that's something that the women in AEW have not had, is a lot of TV time. She'll make sure she gets her TV time. And two, like I said, it already elevates the division, and it's nice now because she gets to end her career on her own terms and do what she wants to do, how she wants to do it. And so I'm really excited to see what she's going to do. The pop she got was huge. I need to, if she is cleared to compete, her and Britt Baker immediately, because that would be the money match right there.
Yep.
But also like her and Ruby Soho would be really interesting. Her and Tony Storm, Jamie Hayter, like they're her and Athena, and her and Jade Cargill. Let her be the one to beat Jade Cargill or something like that. But this could be, and I saw this tweet earlier. I don't remember who tweeted it, and I love the little phrasing that they use. This could be the AEW women's revolution starting with her coming back and kind of kickstarting it. And I also saw a picture that proved that Tony Khan absolutely loved WWE backstage, because now he's got Paige, Punk, and Christian and Samoa Joe all in one area together, and Renee from time to time. So he's got them all together.
That is true. That is very true. I think commentary really let the moment breathe. I don't think they really said if she's back or not.
And they don't need to right now. That adds intrigue to it right now.
Exactly, for sure. I definitely think this, you said it. I can't add any more to that she elevates the women's division unlike anybody else could. I mean, there's not another name other than Sasha Banks that AEW could have brought in to take them up a notch in the women's division like Paige is going to be able to do. So it'll be interesting to see how it all transpires. If she's a manager, if she's a commentator, if she's a wrestler, we don't know. I tell you what, no matter if she's a wrestler or a manager, I think her and Tony Storm would be a duo, not adversaries. You imagine that duo? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. But if she is wrestling, like you said, her and Britt Baker, like that's the way to go. Let's build that for a little while. Anticipation of that match.
Yeah.
Because the look on Britt Baker's face
perfect
when she came out was just great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was awesome. Happy to see her back. Hopefully, like you said, she'll be able to end on her terms. Hopefully. We'll see.
We'll see.
We shall see.
Stay healthy.
If she can stay healthy, that's right. She has had a problem with that in the past.
Yeah.
All right. The acclaimed new AEW tag team champions. Man, this is about 3. I know they did it in New York, so you called it after All Out, but man, I feel like this is 3 weeks too late. Like I feel like All Out was the spot.
I don't know. The pop they got was huge. They are still when their music hit, the reaction they got was massive. So it might be too late, but then again, when you win it in front of your home crowd, who cares if it's too late? Because they're gonna give you that rub and that pushback anyway. So I absolutely deserved. I mean, they have worked really hard from the beginning. As soon as they got into AEW, they went from being a jobber tag team that everyone kind of laughed at to honestly the hottest tag team in pro wrestling. Like from a fan perspective, the hottest tag team in pro wrestling. When you've got guys like the Young Bucks, FTR, Lucha Brothers all on the same roster, and you're the team that everybody wants to see win, you're doing something right. So I am very excited to see where they go from here. I hope they have a good lengthy run. And I'm excited to see what Lee and Swerve do now, because I feel like that breakup is going to happen sooner or later.
Yep.
But I'm happy for them, and I popped huge when they won. The crowd popped huge when they won. We'll see what happens next week when they show up. I'm sure they'll get a big reaction as well. But yeah, it was a great moment.
I equate their rise, not necessarily in popularity, because this guy's not nearly as popular as they are.
Yeah.
But I remember a while back, right after WrestleMania, when we started talking about Madcap Moss and how out of
I got physically ill when he won the Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
Right. And then not even 2 weeks later, he's one of the more popular baby faces on SmackDown. How it happened, we do not know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the same thing with the Acclaimed. Like, I don't know when, I can't pinpoint when it happened.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, all at once, the switch flips and they're the hottest thing. They go, like you said, from going to being jobbers to being the hottest thing in the company. The switch flipped at some point.
Honestly, it were you could even go back to Miro, and Rusev in WWE, when he went from being I don't want to say nothing, but he went from being kind of lost in the shuffle to
Yes.
all of a sudden him and Aiden English come together,
Aiden,
Rusev Day, and they got over.
Think about what you just said. Aiden English, who was going nowhere faster than anybody in the WWE.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they threw those guys together saying, well, we don't have anything for either of them. Let's just put them together and see what happens. And then it clicked, and it was the most popular thing on the roster.
And still kind of like for forever, it was 2 or 3 years after they kind of not broken apart, but not really done anything. Like the Rusev Day chants were huge and massive, and they still happen. Or you could even go back to Survivor Series. I forget what Survivor Series it was, but the team was Triple H, Shawn Michaels, I want to say the Hardys, and Punk. And Punk was
09,
08, something like that. And like Punk was still relatively new, and everybody was chanting for him over all the other guys that have been there for a while. So it just sometimes you don't know what happens when it happens, but you start to see things in guys. You're like, man, I really like they've come a long way, and I really like what they're doing. And this rap gimmick should not work on 90% of the people. And yet with Max Caster, it's absolutely perfect. And then you put Anthony Bowens and you put Billy Gunn together, and it's just amazing. It is the most amazing thing.
Kudos
Absolutely.
to the most professional wrestler, Brian Myers, for training the AEW Tag Team Champion Max Caster. Always got to give the flowers to Brian Myers on that. Speaking of new champions, this is one that really made me scratch my head. I know you texted me and said that you love it. Chris Jericho is the ROH World Champion.
Yeah.
Like, is this just a play so that he can say he was the champion of that promotion, even though it's not a real promotion right now? Or is there actually something to this?
One of two things.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. What you just said is probably true. Like if that's the case, then I'm not as big of a fan of this as, and I don't even know why I love it right now. I just know that Jericho winning it was not what I was expecting, and I'm a huge Claudio fan, and the fact that Jericho won it, I'm like, okay, like I love that. I honestly think if you want to make Ring of Honor feel special, and if you want it to build up to be something, why not put it on Jericho? Why not let Chris Jericho be the champion? He's going to be on Dynamite each and every week now with that championship. Let him face some younger guys that, are kind of no names, but like people that he can kind of build up and help and defeat, kind of like he was in WCW, and he was getting beat all the time, but people kept remembering who he was. Like I like that fact if they're going that way. Obviously, it's his 8th world championship, kind of a big deal. Like that definitely plays a part in it. But I feel like there's a bigger picture to go along with this, of the fact that maybe, the first ever AEW World Champion was Jericho for a reason, to help build the credibility of the company. Why not do the same thing with Ring of Honor? And not saying that Claudio couldn't be that, but if you had to pick between Claudio and Jericho, who's going to be the most well-known guy outside of the wrestling diehard fan, it's going to be Jericho.
But is that really... You talk about him facing younger guys and facing no names and building talent up and yada yada. Like, think about ROH and think about the history of ROH. And I'm not a huge Ring of Honor guy. You are. So think about ROH. Like, I just don't feel like Jericho fits the mold of what
he doesn't.
What they were or what they should be currently.
He does not fit that mold at all. But that's part of it, is like, he doesn't fit the mold, but he's the greatest wrestler of all time. Like he is Chris Jericho. He literally adapted to everything. He is the GOAT. Why? Like I get what you're saying in the fact, like, he doesn't fit what they want, but Daniel Garcia gets added to his group. Look how big of a deal he has become over the last couple of weeks. 2.0, who was a tag team that we literally made fun of going into AEW. Well, now they're not half bad. Like, now I kind of get the hype behind them. So, like, I feel like if you put Jericho with guys, obviously he can teach them, show them, but then, like, it's Jericho as your champion. So it's hard not to go for Jericho, whether he fits the mold or not. Like, that kind of plays into it more than takes away from it. And it depends on the person that it is. But with Jericho, he can literally adapt to anything. It seems like in wrestling. And so I feel like he can adapt into this Ring of Honor World Champion. Because let's say he holds it for 6-7 months, and then a Dalton Castle comes in and beats him, or someone else comes in and beats him. Like that person is already elevated even more. And I think the only other person you could have had beat Claudio that would feel like a big deal for Ring of Honor fans or for Ring of Honor is if you had Adam Cole come in and beat him. Like if Adam Cole was Ring of Honor World Champion again, like that would be fantastic. But I think we would rather see Adam Cole go after the AEW World Title and let someone like Jericho, hold on to the ROH.
Well, I just think it's like we've said on this podcast plenty of times. It's still confusing because we just don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
So to me, if you're saddling Jericho with it and we don't know what it's going to be, that just creates even more confusion. I'm not saying that Claudio would get lost in the shuffle.
Right.
Okay, let's just give him the title and we'll figure it out later. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if ROH is going to be its own separate thing and they're going to run their own shows and it's going to act as a separate brand,
right,
then that takes Jericho away from AEW. Do you really want to do that? Does Jericho have time to do that or to do both or what have you? Like, until we figure out what this ROH is, I feel like I'm always going to question everything with the ROH brand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I just feel like the intrigue with Jericho, it adds more intrigue with Jericho being champion than Claudio. And it adds more of like, okay, Jericho's now champ. What's he going to do with this title? What are we going to see from this title? Where is it going to go? And just imagine like the next ROH pay-per-view they do, if it's headlined by Chris Jericho, one, the building's going to be sold out, and two, pay-per-view buys are going to be up higher than they were last time. So I think if you're trying to build Ring of Honor into something, putting Jericho as the world champion helps, doesn't hinder it. But if you're just kind of going through the shuffle with Ring of Honor, it doesn't really matter if Jericho's champion or not, because that championship doesn't really mean that much at that point.
Right. I just, like, as a Jericho fan, I look at this and I just don't feel like it's necessary. You know what I mean? If he was AEW champion, okay, I can get behind that. That's fine. I just don't think that I just don't think it's necessary. I don't know. Again, we'll wait and see. Right. I don't know, but I don't really like it.
I will say, if 90s Jericho was around in 2005, 2006, 2007, I feel like he would be the absolute perfect person for Ring of Honor.
I can get behind that. I agree with that.
And they just brought back the Lionheart gimmick. I wouldn't be shocked if they kind of played both of those together kind of in this part. So I'm not saying that it's going to work perfectly.
Sure.
But there are aspects of it that could make it extremely interesting.
Sure. I get it. I just wonder, and like I said, you're a Ring of Honor diehard. I just wonder how those Ring of Honor diehards actually respond to this, and if we're pulling the Ring of Honor brand away from what essentially got them where they are,
right?
Which was the fans, you know.
Yeah.
And
the thing about
that kind of
thing. Go ahead.
No. I just wonder if you're pulling the diehards away, right, and trying to bring in a more casual, trying to get the AEW viewers to watch Ring of Honor, but we're losing what we have.
Yeah. The thing about Ring of Honor diehards is they're not really Ring of Honor diehards anymore. They're AEW diehards now. And so
I guess that's true.
Not having Ring of Honor, like, we didn't have Ring of Honor around for a while. Ring of Honor has been dead for, not dead, but it's been less popular the last 4 or 5 years after the Bucks left, after Adam Cole left, after NXT took everybody from them. Basically, it fell off pretty quickly. And so all those Ring of Honor diehards are now kind of AEW diehards. And so it is interesting. I wonder what people's opinions are of it. I just know for me, it adds a lot of intrigue, but it has a lot of downside to it as well if you don't handle it right.
That's true. We'll have to see how they handle it. I don't know. All right. As we get ready to transition over to WWE, want to remind you guys that we are available wherever you find your podcast, on the bodyslam.net YouTube channel and on SportsWire Radio. So make sure you support us, make sure you like us, make sure you give us a 5-star review. We would appreciate it. You can follow me at Chris Belcher 24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Andy is at Andy_PBWP, and the show is at PBW Podcast. So make sure you follow us, interact with us, and like I said, subscribe, give us a review. We appreciate that. Make sure you're following along with the PBWF every Monday. Well, coming up this Monday. Make sure you're following along. We're having a lot of fun. Andy and I were just talking about our next pay-per-view and how all that's going to shake out. So we're really excited that train is still going to roll. Andy, when we record this next pay-per-view, we will literally be halfway through what we committed to do, which is absolutely insane.
I thought maybe halfway through we both would look at each other and be like, "Man, this isn't what we thought it was going to be."
Right.
We're halfway through, and I want it to go further. I want it to go more than 6 months.
We're halfway through, and we're talking about how we're going to do it again.
Like
what changes we can make, or how we're going to continue. Yeah.
I'm absolutely loving this. It's making me realize we need to get enough money to start our own promotion. Just start our own promotion, open our own wrestling show up, take it on the road, book it. We'll have fun with it.
My goodness. So we're skipping the full-time podcast show, and we're jumping to full-time wrestler promoters. Okay,
I'm down with it. Why not do both? We can do both.
Why not do both? Oh my gosh.
We're not busy as it is anyway, so
I hope you're falling into a lot of money here recently, because that's the only way that's gonna happen. All right, before we move into WWE, we have a list to discuss. The PWI 500 list came out. I guess that was a couple weeks ago now.
Last week
it was.
Last week, yep.
So the PWI list come out, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding it for good measure, but we did not record a podcast last week, so we're going to talk about it this week. So sorry if it's a week late and you've heard everybody's opinion. Now you're going to hear ours. But before I read you the top 10 of the PWI 500, which is where the most controversy lies, I'm going to read you the criteria in which the PWI uses to create this list. So here we go. The criteria of the PWI is a win-loss. It includes a win-loss record, number of titles won, and which titles were won, quality of competition, major feuds, prominence within the wrestler's promotion, and overall wrestling ability. So that's all we're looking at. Now, for those top 10, here we go. From 10 to 1, we have Jonathan Gresham. Number 9, we have Big E. Number 8, we have the AAA Mega Champion. I can't pronounce his name. El Hijo del Viquino. Cool, whatever. Something about a Viking. Anyway, no, I would assume. Anyway, number 7, Bryan Danielson. Number 6, Cody Rhodes. Number 5, Bobby Lashley. Number 4, Hangman Adam Page. Number 3, CM Punk. Number 2, Okada. And number 1, Roman Reigns. Now, obviously, there are some guys missing from the top 10 list.
Yeah.
But I think you and I can both agree that they got number 1 right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Last year, there was an argument either way. For sure, there's an argument either way. This year, there's no argument. Roman Reigns, number 1. I mean, quality, going through the list, the criteria that you went through, quality feuds. He had a lot of big feuds. Hasn't
0
been pinned
losses.
since
Right.
2019, I think it was.
Baron Corbin. Yes.
Yep. Held the Universal Championship. Not only held the Universal Championship, but won the WWE Championship as well. So
Right.
he fits the mold for everything. I think they got one absolutely right. I think they got two absolutely right. Everything else.
Okay. I'll let you have two. I was going to contend number two, but I'll let you have two for the sake of I don't have the knowledge of Okada and everything he's done over the last year.
Yeah.
So I'll give you number two.
Yeah.
3 through 10, we gotta talk.
Yeah, there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of misplacements.
Gaps? I'm talking like Grand Canyons. Like okay.
Okay, let's just talk. Can we just talk about the two that are
let's
that
talk.
are
yes.
blindly not in the top 10? How in the world is Seth Rollins not in your top 10?
Yep.
And how in the world is Jon Moxley not in your top 5? Like that to me is mind-blowing. That Moxley, and I'm a huge Seth fan. Seth absolutely should be top 10, possibly top 5. Moxley, there's no way Moxley should be anything lower than 3, in my opinion, with the year that he had. I mean, world champion. He had a lot of big feuds. He was there all the time, basically. I don't understand how he's not at least top 5.
Right.
Seth, I think the thing that keeps Seth out of the top 5 is losses. He had a lot of losses this year. His quality of feud was there. His matches were there. His in-ring work obviously is top-notch, but he did not win a lot. And so I think that's what kind of keeps him out of the top 5. But Moxley won everything, did everything, should be top 5.
I agree. I totally agree. I think Moxley, for me, and I think it's just because I'm not as big a Moxley fan as you are, so I would put him at like the 5, 6, 7 range, something around there.
Yeah.
But he had a tremendous year.
Yeah.
Why he's not in your top 10 at least?
Yeah.
I don't know. Same thing with Seth Rollins. Mm-hmm. Those 3 matches against Cody Rhodes alone should have put Seth Rollins in your top 5.
But don't forget, he also had those 3 matches against Edge during this time period as well. So, and I mean, obviously, I don't remember when this runs out, so this probably doesn't add into it with Riddle. But his Riddle feud has been fantastic this year. He had a world championship match against Roman Reigns at the Rumble, which technically he won. I mean, if you go back and look, technically he won that. So, how he's not top 10 is beyond me.
I think the list is like August to July.
Yeah.
Beginning of August to the end of July. So, I think it's August to August, I think.
So the Riddle stuff wouldn't, because he didn't have that match at SummerSlam.
Right.
So the Riddle stuff won't really play a part into this. But Edge absolutely plays a part in this.
Right.
Cody Rhodes plays a huge part in this.
Yep.
And having a world championship match against Roman Reigns plays a part in this.
I agree. Why he's not in there, I don't know. Let's talk about somebody who is in there. Bobby Lashley. He was number 3 last year.
Yeah.
And he's number 5 in this list.
Yeah.
You think he should have dropped a little further?
I think he's top 10, but I think he's 8, 9, 10, 11 area.
I agree.
I mean, he's U.S. champ. He's been U.S. champ for a while now. I don't remember exactly when. He won it before SummerSlam, didn't he?
Yes, he did, because he was champ going into SummerSlam.
Yeah. So he won it.
He won it at SummerSlam.
No, he won it before SummerSlam. He won it at Money in the Bank because Theory cashed Theory briefcase that night.
That's right.
But he had the feud with Omos at WrestleMania, which the match was better than anybody anticipated it to be, but it was still not anything to write home about.
I mean, he was a world champion during this time as well.
Yeah, so I think he's top 10, but I think he's bottom half top 10. I'm a huge Big E fan. I think Big E is top 15. I don't think he's top 10.
I don't either. Just because he won his first world title, I don't think, to me, does not put him in the top 10. Yeah. I think he is the outlier. And again, I don't know about this AAA champion. But I will say this. Brian, I don't know that I would have put him in the top 10 either. Not
I think
saying
his
he.
feuds get him in. And he won a lot too.
That's true. He did. Cody. Yeah, I think you put Cody in there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, man. Here's a guy I don't give a lot of flowers to a whole lot. Adam Page absolutely deserves the spot that he has.
Yeah, absolutely.
That bro, I don't care if he didn't draw money as AEW champ or whatever. That dude, every time the bell rang, brought it. And
he carried the company for a year while Kenny was gone. Like he carried until Punk came in, and even when Punk came in, he still kind of carried a majority of the company on his back. So he absolutely deserves to be where he's at. Punk is another one that he shouldn't be 3. I think he's top 7. Easily he's top 7. But I think 3 is a little too high for Punk.
Yeah, I'm definitely moving him down.
Yeah.
I don't think he's top 10, but I'm moving him down for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one more guy who I think should be in the top 10, is at least in the top 15. And that is my boy Matt Cardona. Bro had an insane year.
Yeah.
The number 1 indie wrestler in the world.
It depends on what you call indies, but yeah, probably.
Indie is anything to me outside of WWE and AEW.
See, I would consider Jonathan Gresham more than but he was on AEW for a part of it.
That's true.
I don't even have Cardona in my top 20. I'm not a huge a huge Cardona guy. Yeah, you can go to. Here's my thing. I'm the independent guy saying this too, so take that with what I'm about to say. You can win all these little independent championships all you want, but they don't hold anything compared to mid-card titles in WWE and AEW, in my opinion.
But again, criteria, championships, and wins.
I don't know anybody big that he's beaten though. He lost to Moxley.
He beat
Effie. He beat Nick Gage, but I don't know if you would consider him big.
Beat Nick Gage. He beat Joe Janela.
Yeah.
He beat. Trying to think of big people that he beat.
He beat X-Pac, did he?
No, they lost that match. X-Pac and Janela won, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Joe Janela beat X-Pac.
He beat Jordan Grace several times. He was the Impact Digital Media Champion. I'm just saying.
Oh, Lord.
So I think he's in the top 10, but I'm biased, I guess.
See, I think Drew McIntyre is top 15.
I do too.
And they've got him at 20. I think Jay White could be top 15, and they've got him at 22.
Yeah, I don't have the list past 20. When does the next WWE guy come up? Like, read down through there and see where some of those guys fall. I'm just curious.
So Drew's 20.
Yep.
The next one that comes up is Kevin Owens at 36.
Oh my gosh.
Xavier Woods is 37. Shinsuke is 46.
He had a great run with Boog, so I'll give him that.
Randy's 47. He had that run with Riddle.
What?
Ricochet is 54. Damian Priest is 57. Finn is 63. Ciampa 64. Edge 65.
Oh my gosh.
Andrade, well, he's AEW. AJ is 74. Which I get because AJ didn't do anything this past year.
I know. I'm not complaining about that.
Sami Zayn is 84. Kofi Kingston is 85. Riddle is 89, which I think is shockingly low. Gunther is 91, which is shockingly low. Theory is 96.
What jokers are voting on this list? Like, seriously. Like, this is terrible. This is awful. Like, Edge at 65.
I'm sorry.
Kidding me?
Braun Breaker is 26. I forgot he was technically WWE, but he's 20. He had a good year. He had a big year. I will give Breaker should be top 40.
He didn't have number 26 year ahead of Kevin Owens, ahead of Edge, ahead of those guys.
See, the thing about Kevin, the only thing he has done during that time period was with the feud with Austin.
That's good enough for me.
Maybe back in like 2000 or 1999, but 2022, I think you need a little more than just Stone Cold.
This is terrible. I cannot believe.
And I get Edge being lower.
I don't.
Because not that low, but I get him being lower because he's part-time. He's not there full-time. He's not there week in, week out. Won no championships.
It's terrible.
He had that match with AJ at WrestleMania that wasn't anything to write home about.
Had the stuff with Miz that was really good.
Yeah.
Had the stuff with Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I definitely disagree. All right.
I think he's top 50, but I don't know how much higher I would put him.
He's top 20.
I don't know if he's top 20. Top 30, maybe.
Top 25. Come on. Anyway, all right.
I've got my top 10 written down if you'd like to hear my top 10.
I would love to hear your top 10. And while you're doing that, I'll quickly try to give myself a top 10.
So from 1 to 10, I'll give my top 10. My 1 to 10 is Roman 1, Okada 2, Moxley 3, Page 4, Punk 5, Rollins 6, Will Ospreay 7. Will Ospreay was extremely low. Bryan Danielson 8, Cody Rhodes 9, Drew McIntyre 10. That is my top 10. Probably Lashley at 11.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to come up with a list that fast. If I'm working through my list here, let's just try to work through it. Man, I don't know. I can't work through a list that fast. I got to think about it. Okay. Read yours one more time so I can soak it in.
Roman 1, Okada 2, Moxley 3, Page 4, Punk 5, Rollins 6, Ospreay 7, Danielson 8, Rhodes 9, McIntyre 10.
Okay. I can live with that list. I can live with that list. All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about some WWE stuff. Let's talk about what Andy has been waiting for the last 47 minutes to talk about. And that is this whole White Rabbit deal that is going on in WWE. There's QR codes. There's lanterns in the Extreme Rules poster. There's Hangman games. There's just
all the references in the world.
Yes. How disappointed, not just you, how disappointed will the wrestling world be when this is not Bray Wyatt?
It depends on who it is. I think that plays a huge part in all of this. It depends on who it is. I don't know of anybody, though, that'll be as exciting or more exciting than Bray Wyatt.
Absolutely.
I think there are a lot of things pointing it to Bray.
Sure.
And that's what makes me the most nervous about it not being Bray. is that it points a lot to Bray. I think there's obviously a lot that points to Karrion Kross. I mean, in the little video that you go to on the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner is an hourglass. His Lucha Underground name was White Rabbit. So there is some parallel there as well. However, I don't think it's Karrion because they've already established him.
Bingo.
He's already there. He has a match at Extreme Rules. Why would he change gimmicks in the middle of all of that to go to something different?
Bingo. Now, here's what I will say. I completely agree with you about Karrion because I said the exact same thing. But you running through all of that takes me back to his interview on After the Bell with Corey Graves, where he talks about these layers upon layers upon layers of storytelling that he wants to do and he thinks he can do in WWE. This really points to that.
It does.
If you're looking for something to base it and say this is Cross.
It does. But there's so much pointing to Bray.
That is true.
There's so much pointing to Bray. I don't even know if you know this. The first promo he ever cut in NXT, the last 3 words he said was "Come with me," and that's what it says on the QR code at the end. The first 5 letters that it spells out when it plays "Hangman is Demon." The guy that helped him create the Fiend character, the Fiend mask, Monday night during all of this was releasing pictures of a white demonic rabbit looking thing. There's so many, there's old tweets. I mean, even to the point where the little hourglass in the corner is covered by a red circle. Well, if you look at Bray Wyatt's Twitter profile in the bio, there's a red circle right there that he likes to use all the time. So there's so much pointing to him. There are a lot of theories, and there are a lot of ways that my head has been running since Monday night. Like, I have come up with like 20 different things that this could be. I'm not going to talk about all 20. I will talk about 2 that really intrigue me. One I heard, both of them I've heard from somewhere else, but I really like the idea. One is, what if this is Bray Wyatt, but he's targeting Karrion Kross? Ooh. I think that could be really interesting because, yes, you have the hourglass, but it's in the circle, kind of like a crosshair from Bray Wyatt, using his old gimmick, coming back, going after him. I think that would be really interesting. It's a great way for Bray to come back and be at the top of the card without being bogged down by world title stuff. Is getting involved with Karrion Kross. The second is, and I really want to get your take on this because it's really interesting, and I really don't know if I want it to be true or not. What if the Firefly Funhouse has come to life now? Karrion Kross is Ramblin' Rabbit. Scarlet is the witch. I forget, Abby the Witch.
Mr. Abigail. Oh,
yeah, Abby the Witch.
Abby the Witch, yeah.
And Dexter Loomis is Mercy the Buzzard. I like it. I don't want it. Like, that's my thing, is I like it, but I don't know how I feel about it. I think whatever happens, if it's Bray Wyatt, he has to come in as a babyface, or at least like as like a tweener guy. There's no way when he shows up, he is not going to get the massive pop and the huge cheers. And so you want him to go against somebody like a heel like Kross. There's just so many ways this could go.
There is, for sure. I think he comes in as a heel, but I think Bray Wyatt's always been a heel. I don't know that he's necessary, because he's going to get cheered no matter what. Everybody likes him. Everybody's always liked him. So I think he just comes in and he does his Bray Wyatt
care.
thing.
I think he just doesn't care. His character just doesn't care.
Exactly. So he just comes in and he does his Bray Wyatt thing.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the Firefly Funhouse coming to life.
Yeah.
And I like it with those guys, because I don't want it to be some mid-card guys that we don't know what to do with.
Right.
If it's going to come to life and you're going to spend that much time investing in it, it needs to be big time.
Huge.
Like, it needs to feel huge.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that would make it feel huge.
Now, I will throw one other name out there that this has a possibility of being, and that is Joe Gacy from NXT. I think Joe Gacy, I think he is the dark horse. I don't think it's likely. I'll say it this way. I wouldn't be shocked if it's him. I'd be disappointed. I'd be highly disappointed if it's him. I wouldn't be shocked if it's him, though. At this point, it has gotten so hyped up and such a big deal, and I think Triple H is smart enough to know that this is going to be a big deal. And if he's going to bring in guys like Hit Row and Karrion Kross back and Johnny Gargano and Dexter Loomis, and more than likely within the next 6 months or so, Sasha and Naomi, he knows that if he's going to play this spooky character card and not give a face to it, everybody and their mother is going to go, oh, that's Bray Wyatt.
Yep.
And I think he's doing that intentionally, because I don't see it being anybody else but Bray. And that could be my bias. That could be my heart talking more than my head. And I know that at 8:23 on at 8:23 p.m. on Friday, which is 6 minutes before our first softball game Friday night. I will be sitting on my phone in the dugout watching SmackDown just for the fact that it's Bray. And if it is Bray, I'm going to hit a home run for him. Like that's my boy. I'll freak out.
Please do. That'd be great. Our team would appreciate that.
I don't know anybody else that it could be that wouldn't be an absolute disappointment.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely, we talk all the time about WWE painting themselves into a corner. Well, guess what? This is the biggest, deepest, darkest corner that you could get yourself in.
Yeah.
And try to have to find a way out of it, because it wasn't but a month ago or 2 months ago, I guess, that we saw some cryptic things coming around, and it was pointing to Bray, and all of a sudden it was Edge.
Yeah.
So
I think that one, the first one was probably to tease us. And then after that, it got more kind of obvious, like, okay, this is not Bray. This is pointing more to Edge. This last couple ones with the White Rabbit randomly playing, and like I think one of the lyrics in the song, which by the way, White Rabbit without any music just being played is creepy. Is extremely creepy. Yes, I think there's a part of the song where it says "Remember me" or "Remember something," and every single time it says that, the lights go red.
Yep.
So they're intentionally doing this stuff. I don't know. I texted you this Monday night. I don't know if this is just some light dude that messed up and now people are talking about it even more, or if it was intentional. I'm going to lean on the side of it was intentional.
Yep.
Bayley and Alexa Bliss, the lights go out for a second when they were talking about the shell of Alexa Bliss. It's got to be Bray.
She's coming. I mean, there was a clear. I'm glad you segued. Perfect segue. Thank you, because I was about to bring that up. There was a clear direction given to the commentators on Monday night to talk about this is not the same Alexa. Alexa is not the same as she used to be. She's not as vicious. Remember when she used to be this. Remember when she blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It was very clear what story they were telling. You think that was intentional?
And
yep.
And if I remember correctly, I don't remember her using Lily the last couple of weeks.
She is not. Nope.
And she came out Monday with Lily. So all I'm saying is, if they're playing this up to, and it's not Bray, whoever it is, it needs to be a huge name, which I cannot think off the top of my head who would be this big. And second, if it's not him, and if it's Joe Gacy or someone like that, they are going to be the most hated character because they're not Bray. So it's not going to work in the first place.
Yeah, if it's Joe Gacy, like, just sign his death certificate as a wrestler in WWE, because it's over before it begins.
And it's not his fault. Like, it's not even his fault.
Exactly. You can quote me on that. And in 6 months, if he's the biggest thing on the roster, okay, I was wrong. I just don't see it happening that way.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't. Again, I don't see Triple H backing himself into a corner like this unless it's for the intended purpose of being like, oh, we have nowhere to go. Bray Wyatt's here. Like, I don't see it going any other way.
I don't know of any other like free agent out there that this could be. Like,
it's too soon for Malachi Black, and he's not allowed to go over.
Right. I just don't know. Like,
I don't either.
I don't know of anybody unless it's somebody that's totally changing their gimmick. And then in which, when they do get here, it's going to be
the same reaction. Yeah.
It's going to be the same.
Unless it's like John Cena or something like that. But even then it wouldn't work.
I don't know, man.
I feel like we're either going to come back next week and I'm going to be crying. I'm so happy it's Bray Wyatt.
Right.
Or I'm going to be ready to break something because it's not Bray Wyatt.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. At 8:23 Central Time, if you're listening to this in Eastern Time, the graphic was 9:23, so we assume it's in Eastern Time. And when that time rolls around on SmackDown, I'm going to place a very bold prediction right now, we're not going to find out who it is. Something else is going to happen. Something else is going to stir the pot even more. I don't think we're going to find out.
I think you're right. However, I think we get a more clear direction.
We probably do. You're right. Yeah, we probably do.
And the only thing I'm hesitant about is I think whenever they reveal who this is, they don't want to, like, because with this, it's like it could be Bray, it could be somebody else. We don't know.
Right.
I don't think if they're going to introduce Bray back that they want to be like, oh, here comes Bray Wyatt. Is it Bray? Like, I think if they wanted to get the shock value and the pop value, 923 rolls around. If it's Bray Wyatt, I feel like Bray Wyatt's going to be there. But I'm not entirely sure.
Well, because if you read some of the rumor and innuendo online, they want to save Bray's debut for a pay-per-view. And they want to bring it on a big stage or whatever. A random SmackDown is not necessarily a big stage.
Where are they at?
It's a good question. How about we look that up? Stand by as you are listening or you're watching as we're surfing on our phone to see who's going to get to it the fastest. You're going to get it faster than I am. I'm getting a white screen. Come on. Salt Lake City, Utah. That's random.
Yeah, and I don't feel like Extreme Rules. I feel like Extreme Rules is kind of big enough. I mean, it's a pay-per-view.
Yep.
Or a premium live event.
Otherwise, why would they put the lantern on the poster?
See, I didn't even notice that. I didn't even notice that until you said that.
Yeah, if you go look at the poster right beside, it's especially in the Riddle Rollins poster. If you go look at it, it's in the top left section of the poster. So, like, is he coming back for Riddle? That could be interesting. Is he coming back for Rollins? He's coming back for Rollins. Did you find it?
I found one, but I don't see the lantern.
Okay, hang on. Again, real time, folks. Extreme Rules. Oh, it's a thing.
You know it's a poster you're talking about?
I'm not sure. Hang on. You know it's a thing when you Google it, and Extreme Rules poster is one of the things that comes up. Here you go. Okay, so this is the graphic of Seth and Riddle.
Okay.
Here you go.
Oh, I see it now. I found it.
See it? So there it is.
Yeah, that's Bray's lantern.
That also sort of looks like an hourglass. You just can't see the top of it.
See, but he's going to be on the show anyway.
I know. I'm not saying that it would be cross. I'm just saying
that's just the thing that doesn't make sense is why do it?
I know. So those of you who are listening and you're literally listening to
my brain melt.
The hamster on the wheel in our brains as we are attempting to process all of this and figure it out. You know, it's a good freaking storyline when we're sitting here stumbling over our words trying to figure it out.
And if it is Bray, this is one of the things I love about him. And I'm sure this is not just him. Like, this is Triple H. This is... I feel, though, if Bray Wyatt is back in WWE, Triple H is going to let him be more hands-on.
Sure he is.
With his character than Vince ever did.
Well, not only that, but Bray's not going to come back unless he is.
Right.
I can guarantee that.
And Triple H knows money, and money is in Bray Wyatt coming back not taking full creative control. We're not Hulk Hogan in here and saying that doesn't work for me, brother. But Bray's direction with the character and the things that he does with the character, I feel like Triple H is going to let him basically do almost not anything he wants, but let him get away with a lot that Vince wouldn't let him get away with. These little things where he doesn't even have to be there. and it's just so interesting. And it's so cool. Remember when the Fiend first showed up and they started playing those vignettes of the box and the dark, and then the puppet would pop up and all of that stuff, and then we ended up with the Fiend character. Like, how we got from that to that blows my mind every time I look back at it. So if this is Bray, I'm so excited to see what they're going to do. If it's not, I'm not going to be 100% sure if I'm going to be able to give it a chance or not, because my heart is going to be completely broken, to be completely honest. But I just hope they don't back themselves into this corner and then shoot themselves in the foot
and bring out Joe Gacy, because
yeah,
the more and more that I say that, the more and more I'm like, daggum, I bet it is. Gosh.
yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this, and then we'll move on. We'll get ready to wrap up here. If this is Bray Wyatt, let's just call it what it is. If this is Bray Wyatt, do we get Wyatt family Bray Wyatt back? Do we get Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt / the Fiend back? Do we get something in between? Do we get something totally different? If you have to make a prediction, what do you think?
I think if it is Bray Wyatt, I think we get a mix between the two. I don't think he's going to be cult leader style Bray Wyatt again. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to be kids TV show host Bray Wyatt again, even though that Bray Wyatt was probably my favorite Bray Wyatt, because it was so good. It was so funny. It was so creepy as well. Like, it worked perfectly. Yep. I think no matter what, if Bray Wyatt is back, I think the Fiend is back in one way or another. I think he may look different. I think it may be a different mask. It may be something different. I think the same concept will still be the same though. And so I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I do think it's going to be something to that nature of, it's sort of fiendish like, but it may be something completely different.
Something.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And then
it's fine. I love it.
And then Alexa and the lights going out and all that. And like you said earlier, that was 100% intentional. That wasn't somebody that hit a wrong button. That was absolutely intentional. Maybe, she goes back with it. Maybe she doesn't.
Maybe he gets revenge for what she did at WrestleMania a couple years ago.
Maybe that's how he shows up. It's like she's got Lily, and all of a sudden Lily catches on fire, and
lights go out, and we wake up, or we come back on, and she's in the mandible claw. Because I feel like I think you could easily put, like, a man could easily put a woman in the mandible claw, and it's not like Baron Corbin hit Becky Lynch with the end of days. So, like, I'm pretty sure the mandible claw is nothing compared to that.
Right.
And it fits story. It's not just some random thing. It would make sense. Right. I do think, though, if he does show up at Extreme Rules, I think he's more likely to show up in Cross McIntyre than anything else.
I think so too. I think you're right, especially because if they're doing this, I mean, they've been doing the teases on Raw, but they've set this SmackDown date, so I feel like that, something has to happen there.
Yeah.
We talk about all these great things that Triple H is doing with this storyline. A couple other great things that Triple H is doing, and that is bringing to the WWE main roster. You talked about Extreme Rules. The Seth Rollins Matt Riddle rematch has been made. You called it a long time ago. Fight pit match at Extreme Rules. This is going to be really interesting, man.
I have no idea how they're going to set this up. Like, is it going to be backstage?
It may be a thing where,
or off to the side.
It'd be off to the side, yeah.
Either way, they do it.
If you watch, shoot, I don't remember what the pay-per-view is. I want to say I don't remember what it is. Anyway, back in the Attitude Era, they used to do Lions Den matches.
Yeah.
When Ken Shamrock was there. And sometimes they had that set up kind of on the side. So they may do that. I just don't know how big it is. Because it has to fit a ring in it.
Yeah. Either way, it's going to be awesome. Like, I'm looking forward to that. I think Riddle's going to walk away with the win. I don't really want him to. I want Seth to win because I feel like Seth needs the wins more than Riddle. But it's going to be I think it's going to be a great match. I mean, the fight pit matches have always been good for some, like, they shouldn't be good. And the ones that they've had have been amazing.
Right.
I don't know if Seth fits the fight pit mold.
Nope.
But Riddle absolutely does, and I think that's going to play into that more.
Yep, that's the point, because Seth can now lose. He can come out of there complaining that it wasn't his environment, blah 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 blah, and that's easy. Are
we really going to have another trilogy Seth Rollins feud? Because we had one with Edge, we had one with Cody. We're going to do one with Riddle too.
We may as well. As we're waiting on Cody to come back, we may as well. Why not? And then we'll put them in like an Iron Man match or something like that.
Man, Riddle and Rollins in an Iron Man match would be fantastic.
That would be a lot of fun. The other thing that Triple H, Papa H, is bringing to the main roster is that Survivor Series. We are getting War Games, a men's and a women's War Games match. If you're predicting it right now, it's got to be the Bloodline versus somebody.
Yeah.
And it's got to be Damage Control versus somebody.
Yeah. I really would love for it to be Bloodline versus Imperium. I think that would be Gunther and one of those War Games matches would be brutal. To see that him and Roman, like that's something I feel like we need to see at some point is Roman and Walter, Gunther, whatever you want to call him. I think that would be interesting. I think you could also do Bloodline versus Brawling Brutes. I think that would be
interesting.
That would be really interesting because you could add the fourth and have Drew McIntyre join them, and there's your four right there.
Yep, especially since they're baby faces now.
Yeah,
that would work.
So you could definitely do that for the women's side with Damage Control. I have no idea. I mean, you could bring in Toxic Attraction, have them come in with Mandy Rose and I forget who the other two, Gigi, and I forget the other girl's name.
Is it Jesse something or other?
Maybe have them come in and do that. I think with the women's, you could do 3 teams of 3 because they did that in the first ever War Games in NXT. They did 3 teams of 3.
That's right, they did. Yep.
So I think you could do that.
Yeah,
I think you could do that on the men's side too if you wanted to do the Bloodline. If you wanted to do the Bloodline, Imperium, and the Brawling Brutes, or Judgment Day, if you really wanted to add Judgment Day to it.
You could do that.
The only problem with that is I really want to see Gunther and Bobby Lashley go at it as well. Right. And if they're both U.S. and Intercontinental Champion, I would rather them go together than be a War Game. So I honestly have no idea. It's obviously going to be Bloodline.
Yep.
And it may be Bloodline and like a random group of 4. But I feel like a team versus a team would make it really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely would. Excuse me. It definitely would. I don't care who it is, if I'm being honest.
I don't either.
Like, let's just go. I know Triple H made the comment this past week about blood, and they're not going to bring blood back and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Whatever. Is what it is. But I don't care who's in this War Games. The women I care a little bit more about because I'm going to be a little more critical because I want them to be able to do some things.
Mm-hmm.
The men, I've got faith in whoever they put in there.
See, this would have been perfect if we would have done the 4 horsewomen versus the MMA 4 horsewomen in a War Games. Like, could you imagine that match in a War Games?
Yes.
You don't need to be a good wrestler to be in a War Games match.
It's true.
Like that's kind of the beauty of it is you don't have to be a great wrestler to be in there. Just go in there and throw people around into the steel, like into the steel. Like that's all you really need. So I am so excited for this. It's the first time in a long time that I've actually been excited about Survivor Series. And it's not even it's not even here yet. So I'm ready for it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is definitely going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to keep you up to date on everything coming and going for Extreme Rules and for Survivor Series and for the days and months to come. All right, man. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Again, make sure you follow us at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you find your podcast. Give us a like. Give us a 5-star review. We would appreciate it. My voice is going out, so that means time to wrap it up. All right, for Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. Thanks for hanging out with us on this edition of the Bite Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you guys